Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're back. It's teaching time. Ear training time. It's the best time. Any time to do with ear training is the best time, let me tell you. I'm into it. Welcome to everybody who's here live with me now. If you're here, say what's up. I know you're already saying what's up, so what's up to you? Hey, Kem, Phil, Carmela, Blood, Amit, hello, welcome. Hi, sweetie. We got the gang. We're about to get into it. I'm looking like a ghost today. I've been trying to figure out, my camera settings in the new room. It's just not happening right now, but, we're haunted. Ian, hey, Ivan, Nick, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm excited today for one of my favorite topics, ear training, recognition of sounds, knowing what you're hearing, all that sort of stuff. It's big for me. It should be big for you too. Well, maybe it shouldn't be. Just depends on what you're into and what you're trying to achieve. So I really like to know if you have any questions. So feel free now or anytime to ask specific questions, because that helps me the most. I've got a big outline here that I want to get through and things I want to talk about, but I'm also interested in the feedback. I'm interested in what is a particular subject or problem that you're dealing with and you want to talk about, because that really helps me understand the flow of what I should say. So anytime, let me know. And I guess to begin with, I'd also like to ask the chat, what's your goal for ear training? What does that even mean to you? What would you like to be able to do? What would you like your ears to do? I had some goals. I've got goals still. But I'll talk about that in just a minute. So anyway, I hope everybody's having a great day. I was just waiting a couple of minutes here for anybody else to join before we get started so people don't miss too much. But yes, ears. What can you say? It's music, right? It's all about the ears. Okay. And let me just read this. Sorry, one sec. I want to be able to hear and identify extensions on add chords. Okay. RME, hey, welcome. All right. I'm going to get into it. Let me just make sure I've got all these notifications turned off so people aren't buzzing at me constantly here. That happens, hey? I want to be more conscious of my melody choices. If you want to understand the emotion, feel, and relationship of notes. To identify major and minor. All very valid. Very valid wishes. Okay. Today we're talking ear training. We're going to talk about the what, how, why, when, where of everything about it, about kind of my journey with it, my suggestions for it, kind of put you on a path towards success, and just maybe some overall understanding of what it's all about, what you can gain from ear training, why you might want to do it, and how to go about doing that, basically. So I want to start with the simple question, what is ear training? And really, ear training can be many, many things. We can train our ears to do all sorts of stuff, but generally speaking, it's to recognize, name, and understand the things that we hear, as opposed to just hearing sounds, and they sound great, and we feel them, and it's all good. That's great. We want to keep that intact. We want to keep hearing things, but we want to also know what we're hearing, so that in the same way that when someone is speaking to us, as I'm speaking to you now, without effort, we can hear the sound, but we also have meaning that comes with it and understanding, and we understand where we are grammatically in the sentence and what I'm going to try to do and say and all that. Same sort of thing can happen with music, of course. So there's that. The second thing I wanted to mention with what is ear training, regarding what I said earlier, that we can train many things, is that today we're talking about musical ear training, meaning notes and their relationships, melodies, harmonies, scales, chords, this sort of thing. But you can ear train anything that is audible. basically. Bird sounds. You can recognize bird sounds. You can ear train for mixing. You can hear compression. You can hear EQ deficiencies or spikes. You can hear reverb tails. All this stuff can be trained. You can train for sound design, synthesis, what kind of waveforms are being used, all that sort of stuff, right? There's so much there. Anything audible can be trained. And this is getting to the main point that I want to make, that I hope to impress upon you today, which is that if it sounds like something, you can learn it. And anyone can learn it. The key is, does it sound like something to you? If it sounds like nothing, you can't learn it because there's no distinguishing characteristics. If it sounds like something and you can say, hey, there's that sound again that I've heard before, or hey, there, anything like that, that means you can learn to identify it consistently because it has defined characteristics and qualities. Let me just say hello to some people here. Jean David, Rev, hey, welcome. Stranger, hey. Okay. I want to be able to identify waveforms too. So, okay. We'll get to the method and more about that in just a minute. But I want to say, why ear train? What can you achieve with ear training? What's the purpose of it, basically? Well, of course, music is aural, meaning through your ears. It's a listening art. And when I was coming up learning stuff earlier on, I didn't have anybody tell me to ear train it. I didn't go through classical education. I was self-taught and I had a few teachers here and there for guitar, but nobody was really telling me to ear train. I didn't think much about it, honestly, other than I knew I sucked at it. When I tried to transcribe a melody by ear or chords by ear, it was just disastrous every time. And so I just had the sensation of, oh, okay, I can't do that. That's just a thing that I don't do. Other people can do that because they are gifted somehow, or they were born with it, or they have, I don't know what it was I thought. I didn't think much about it, honestly. It wasn't until later on that I started to hear some people talking about it and reflected on it, thinking, of course, music's all about sound. It's all about listening. I don't even know what I'm hearing. I can play all these fancy things on my guitar. I can play whatever, all my seventh chords and all my modes and all my whatever, because they're forms I can see. They're visual forms, but I don't actually know what I'm hearing. I can't hear music in my mind and play it back. I can't hear music coming at me from speakers and know what it is. I started to realize I'm not fluent in music. I don't speak music. I can think about music. Maybe I can read music, but I don't speak it. I don't understand it. I'm not fluent in it. I started to realize that there's a whole aspect to that I'm was not privy to at the time. And that began my ear training journey, basically, was realizing I'm deficient in this, and then understanding it's even possible for me to gain ability in it through practice. That was the first thing. I had to have a feeling like you don't need to be born with it. You can develop it. And that's what I want to tell you today, because I came from the bottom. The bottom. Truly. I couldn't transcribe Happy Birthday. I couldn't transcribe probably Mary Had a Little Lamb back in the day when I was in my late teens or something like that, before I started ear training. Complete garbage. My ears were total garbage. So I can tell you, coming up from nothing, it is possible to get to a point, at least I can say you can get to a point where I am now, where most of what I hear, either internally or externally, I know what it is. That means I could identify the chords, the extensions, the bass notes, the melodies, the position in the key, all these sorts of things without touching an instrument, just by listening. That was my goal. It is my goal still. I'm absolutely not some god at listening. That is for sure. But I've come a very, very long way. I know how I did it, and I can tell you how to do it too. I'm going to give you my total honest experience with it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to tell you some quick tip. Just do these 5 things and then you're going to hear everything tomorrow. It doesn't work like that at all. So some other things that ear training allows you to do. It allows you to learn and analyze songs much faster all by ear. So instead of having to look up chords or anything like that, you can just hear music, know what you're hearing melodically, scale-wise, chord-wise, and then you can learn to play that immediately, or you can analyze that. You can understand, they went from the 1 chord to the 4 chord to the flat 3 chord, and they played a ninth on top of it, and that's why it has that sound. So I'm going to use that in my music, or something like this. Lots of possibilities there. You can translate audiation into real music. Audiation means musical imagination. So when you're hearing music in your mind, chords, scales, melodies, songs, whatever, and you want to be able to translate that inner music to outer music, that is a huge benefit of ear training. That's what I really had an issue with early on. I'd be writing some music, and then I'd hear a chord in my mind and think, oh, that's the one. And I would literally search for like an hour and then not make any progress, have completely forgotten what chord I was even trying to find. And now I'm just frustrated, and I'm like, God damn it, it's over. I'm not even gonna try anymore. I wanted to stop that. I wanted to be able to hear something in my mind and know what it is, and then just be able to play it. So then you can work much faster while writing music. Meaning, just like I'm saying, you want to be able to quickly translate what you want or what you're hearing internally into sound. Even if you can't hear it in your mind yet, at least you can narrow down your options and start to imagine things and play and understand what it is you're playing, understand what you're hearing, and do this back and forth. It makes the composition process much faster, especially for certain styles, especially for emulating specific styles. Of course, if you're just making your own music and it doesn't need to sound like anything specific and you have all the time in the world to do it, that's totally fine. But if you're like me, where, especially if you're doing music for a career and someone is kind of relying on you to compose things or whatever, we want to be quick with it, right? It's kind of frustrating when things take a long time. You can deepen your experience of music. Ear training does not sully the experience of music, not my experience. It actually deepens it. Yes, I put it this way. We've all done color training. What color is this? What color is behind me? What color are my lips, right? How long does it take you to identify a color when a person points to it? If they hold up a red thing, they say, what color is this? It's red. If you say, what are all the colors surrounding you right now? I can say there's blue here, purple here, white, black, green, blue. It's literally instantaneous. That's what ear training is like. The thing is, if nobody's asking me what colors I'm seeing, I'm not thinking about what colors I'm seeing. I'm seeing colors all the time. Yeah, I'm impressed by them, so to speak. I'm getting impressions, but I'm not naming them. I'm not thinking about it. I'm not analyzing them. It's the same with this. Just because you ear train and you can identify that that's a augmented chord or that's a dominant 9, sharp 11 or something, doesn't mean that that's in the forefront of your mind all the time. It means if you want it, it's there, but you're not always thinking about it, right? That's the thing. So it also gives you confidence to be able to trust your ears. This is huge, where you maybe have this sensation of feeling shaky in your understanding of music and what you're hearing. We want to have confidence that when we hear a thing, we think, oh, that's a major chord. We know it's a major chord. Oh, that's the 5 chord. We know it's the 5 chord. This confidence also allows you to improvise and play music with yourself or with other musicians freely. They don't need to baby you, so to speak. Say you come into a jam situation. You don't need to be told what the key is. You don't need to be told what the chord progression is. You can just start playing. That's kind of a cool thing, another benefit of ear training. And it's a universal skill in music, right? So what that means is if you learn almost any other skill, especially instrument-based, yes, it's great. It applies to that instrument. But if you leave your primary instrument, now you need to relearn something new. Of course, that's the nature of the thing. But ear training is something that is universally applicable to all music, whether you're producing beats, whether you're playing your guitar, whether you're singing, whether you're doing whatever. That knowledge that you gain through ear training, melodic and harmonic and rhythmic and whatever ear training, allows you to not master, but be able to be fluent in music so that when you come to a new instrument or you come to anything, you're able to just jump in and start doing it because your ears know. You know, if I'm on a new instrument and I have no idea what the tuning is and I have no idea what I'm playing, at least when I start just trying things, hitting keys, whatever, my ear will tell me what I'm hearing. I'll know when I've got a major chord. I'll know when I'm on the flat 6 chord. I'll know when blah, 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 blah. Even if I don't know how to read the thing visually and all that, right? That's the big difference. The ears get to a point where they don't lie. so to speak. They are hard to be fooled, and they know immediately what they're hearing. It's just like if someone shows you red and then, your theory says it's blue, but your eyes see it and it says, no, it's red. It doesn't matter how much you try to prove to me it's blue, it's clearly red, right? It's the same thing happens with ear training. So, sorry I'm missing like a billion comments here. It's just, I'm trying to talk. Let me just see if there's anything important I missed. So, okay. Hopefully you can let me know. And if I miss a question, please just restate it. Or if someone wants to post it again, yeah, that would be really helpful. Don't need to read the chat. Okay, I just want to read the chat in case there's questions. That's the thing I want to know about. All right, so next I wanted just to talk a little bit about relative versus perfect pitch. You guys probably know about this already, but today we're talking about relative pitch, right? Perfect pitch is the ability to play a note or hear a note and identify its name, its letter name, without any references. If we hear this, what note is it? Now you can see my keyboard pressed down. If you have perfect pitch, you can immediately say that's an A. If you have perfect pitch, you can sing a C sharp without any reference pitches. Just out of the air, you can go for it. So that is something totally different than what we're talking about today. We're talking about relative pitch today, which is the relationship between notes. And just to give a quick story on the perfect pitch thing, as far as I'm aware, there are no recorded cases of adults or even teenagers learning perfect pitch. So something to think about. Doesn't mean it's not possible. Definitely possible. Definitely possible. I don't know. It might be possible. But as far as I know, there are no recorded examples of that. And when I was a teenager, I tried it. I actually bought a perfect pitch course. And I went super serious on that. I was probably 16 or 17. And I wanted it so bad. I just listened to this thing all the time, listening to notes, trying to like hear into the note, all this sort of thing. And I made zero progress. Even being very serious about it for months on end, I made zero progress. So at that point, I started to feel like, okay, A, this was a scam. I got scammed. And B, I'm just going to move on to relative pitch because clearly this is not working for me. But I'm here to tell you, at least, that relative pitch is extremely beneficial, and everybody can learn it. It is not some special skill. It's not something that's out of reach. It's not something you have to be born with. I was at the bottom of the barrel, and now I've learned it to some degree. So not to worry about that. Now, how does it work? How does ear training work? At least the way that I'm going to propose it to you today. How it works is feeling states. So every musical entity, by that I mean an interval, a scale, mode, a chord function or degree, anything like this, an extension, an inversion, whatever. Every musical entity has a feeling. When you hear something, say you hear this sound, it doesn't feel like nothing. It feels like that, whatever that is to you. It doesn't feel like this. It feels like this, right? These don't sound the same. The fact that they don't sound the same, that they have their own unique quality to them, their own unique emotional or feeling state, means it can be learned because it's specific. Every time I play that, it has the same quality. It's not this quality. They have their own sound. That ownness of their sound is the whole thing. What we're doing in ear training is getting familiar with the feeling state of particular musical structures. There's nothing more to it than that. It's just like when you meet a new person and you learn their name for the first time. You see the face and you say, okay, that's Sarah. But then maybe you forget. You see them in a crowd somewhere and you say, oh, is it like Jane or Susan or something? And then you meet them again, it's Sarah. Okay, Sarah. And then months go by, oh, it's Sarah. Eventually there's a crowd, and you see Sarah's face and it's instant. You don't even think, who is that? You just say Sarah. It's just like that. Thank you, Blood, for the donation. I really appreciate that. Thank you. John David asks, what if you transpose? We're going to get to that. We'll get to it. I'll cover it. Don't worry about it. So this is the point. This is the big point that I'm wanting to make. If this sounds different to you than this, that means you can learn. That means you're going to be able to reach the point where you can identify either one of those by name. If those both sound the same to you, you can't do it, because how can you tell them apart? It is in the differences between the things, it's in their own uniqueness, in their own structure, that gives you the personality, the feeling state of the thing. That is what you are learning. That's what you're getting familiar with. It's not about the theory of it, though theory can help. It's not that this is a minor seventh. It's not that whatever. Yes, you need to name things in order to recall them and use them. We'll get to that. But primarily, of course, ear training, music, aural, listening, all this stuff, the sound is what we want. We want to know the feeling state of the sound, the emotional vibe of the sound. That's what we're memorizing. We're putting a name with a sound together repeatedly until it becomes a thing. And then we know it, just like a face and a name together until you know it, right? That's the whole deal. So how to do it? Well, we're going to get into the exact method in a minute. What I want to say, though, is that this takes experience, tons of experience. It's not going to come overnight. Well, maybe it will. Maybe you're a special person, and you're all special people. I'm a special person too. But maybe you're a really special person. And for that really special person, you just start ear training and then bam, you got it all. That would be sick. But it's not the way it was for me. For me, it was honestly years of consistent practice. And practice takes many forms. Practice is not boring. Practice is actually very enjoyable, and the progress is very enjoyable and satisfying. As your ears open and the identification and familiarity grows, and you begin to have light bulb moments where you're hearing music out of your car speakers or something, and suddenly you say, oh, that's an add 9 chord, and they're playing in a Mixolydian mode. And oh, he just went to the 5 chord right there, and that's a key change. When stuff like that happens, there's a feeling of like, wow, I'm starting to get this. I'm starting to become at least a little bit fluent in the aural art of music. I'm understanding what I'm hearing. I'm not just thinking about it. I'm actually one-to-one recognizing it, getting it grammatically. So it takes experience, and the experience comes in the form of isolated, controlled practice where you are using an app, you're using your keyboard, you're using your guitar, and you're very slowly, methodically, outside of the confines of real music, you are training on specific sounds. You're getting familiar with specific sounds. And then there is real world actual practice where you are putting into practice what you have learned in the isolated situation, and you're testing yourself. Can that apply to real music? Okay, you can hear major and minor, but can you hear it when a song is playing in real time? Can you tell what's major and what's minor now, right? Those two things are a constant feedback loop. The real world experience tells you what you are deficient in, and then the isolated practice allows you to practice that thing particularly. And then we're going to get into some specifics on how to do that as well. Common Beats, thank you so much. Couple get perfect pitch by stream duet. Click here. Oh man, I wish I could put a title down like that. I'd be so famous. Okay, so next we have types of ear training. So the first type we could say is melodic ear training. And what we're training in melodic ear training, remember, whenever I say these things, what I mean is we are recognizing feeling states of things, okay? So we're talking about intervals, and I'm going to make a distinction here between absolute and relative things in music. An absolute thing, and it's still relative, but I'm going to call it absolute for argument's sake, would be like a fifth. Fifths can be played anywhere. These fifths are completely irrelevant to a key center. This is a big point we're going to get into. The point, though, is that a fifth is its own structure and can be abstracted in a way from all other aspects of music. It's not sitting inside a key. This is not the 3 and the 7 of a key. It's not the 2 and the 6 of a key together. It's just a fifth floating in space, and it has its own sound melodically and harmonically, and you can learn that sound. Now, that's not the most important thing in my eyes to learn, but absolutely you can learn that. When I was starting out ear training, that's what I thought you're supposed to learn, most importantly. Like all the ear training apps were all about, can you identify, is this a major third or a fifth? Is this the whatever? And I thought, oh yeah, I can get those sounds. But then when it came to being in real music, I found it was actually less useful to be able to do that. We're going to talk about that. But intervals, we can train for intervals melodically. Fifth, thirds, tritones, so on, all that kind of stuff. You can train for scale degrees or melodic function. Now, this is an example of a relative thing, and this is what I want to hit home for you regarding melodic training. We're going to talk more in depth about it shortly, but just to touch on it, is that in real music, so to speak, real music, there is a key center. Unless you're listening to atonal music, there is a key center. And the key center, the tonic, the home note, is what gives all other notes their feeling state. It is the relationship to the key center that is the entire deal, right? So if my key center is D, and I play an A, it feels like this. But if my key center was G, and I play an A, it feels like this. It's not the same feeling. A itself, unless you have perfect pitch, I don't know what that's like, but for me, A itself does not have a specific feeling. It's just there on its own. It's just a sound. It only has feeling in relationship to something else, and that something else is the key center in our current example. So when I say that you can ear train for scale degrees or melodic function, what I mean is you can identify is something the 1, the 3, the flat 3, the 7, the flat 7 of a key, not just abstracted, but of a key. That's what matters, because that's how real music works. When you're hearing melodies in real music, those melody notes are in relationship to a key center. That's what gives them their feeling. And each note in relationship to a key center has a specific feeling state that is always the same. A fifth against a key center always sounds like that. It doesn't matter what the key center is, because it's not about the absolute pitches. It's not about the frequency in hertz of the notes. It's about the relationship between them. It's about the distance between the notes. That's what makes the feeling. It's not the specific pitches. So you're learning the sound of relationships, and we're going to talk about exactly how to do that just shortly. Also, with melodic ear training goes hand in hand with bass, being able to hear bass lines, and this is going to help you massively to be able to transcribe songs by ear, being able to hear bass melodies, which then have chords stacked on them. This is a huge topic. As well, scales and modes have their own sound as full entities, not as, they all, of course, like if I play a D and I play a major, that each note in there has its own feeling state, which we're going to talk about. But the mode as a whole, major, Ionian, has a feeling state, which if you learn that kind of more meta feeling state, you can feel it as music is playing without even knowing all the specifics of what you're hearing. You don't even have to know, oh, that's the 7th and that's the 4th, and so there's a 2 and a major third there, so it's probably Ionian. No, Ionian has a sound to it. And that sound is born of all those relationships, but all those relationships can be conglomerated together into a meta feeling state. So every scale and mode in and of itself has a feeling state. So much so that when you're hearing music, you can say, this is Mixolydian, oh, that's a Phrygian sound, oh, that's a whatever, because you learn that meta sound as opposed to just the individual notes. Both are important. So outside of the melodic ear training, we can do harmonic ear training. That starts with intervals, like I said earlier, absolute intervals, hearing fifths, hearing thirds. I'm not going to say that stuff's not important. I use it all the time, of course. It's just I don't find it as important as some of the other stuff, but I would still recommend practicing it. And we're going to get into very specific practice recommendations, so don't worry about that. Chord qualities. This is huge. So a quality of a chord is its type, is its name. It's C blank. Major, minor, augmented, diminished seventh, all that stuff, those are qualities. So these again are kind of more meta level sounds that you can learn, in that, say, a major chord is made of a major third and a fifth and a minor third between the third and the fifth. Those sounds are all coming simultaneous. Yes, you could hear them all individually, but also together they produce a meta sound that we call major, a major chord. And a major chord sounds like that, or it sounds like that. In fact, it sounds the same everywhere. Yes, it's higher or lower. You know, if I play D major here versus A major up here, it's higher or lower. But the overall feeling state of a major chord, abstracted from all other music, just the relationship of those notes together, not the specific notes, but just the relationship of frequency distances, basically, that is what creates that sound of the chord. So wherever I play those distances, it will always generate that feeling state. Yes, it's higher or lower, like I'm saying, but the feeling state of a major chord is constant. When you learn to recognize the majorness of a chord, you don't have to do it for every note on the keyboard or something. You just have to do it once. You just have to really learn it once. And once you really get the thing into you, yes, it takes a lot of experience. Of course, you're going to hear it in all different keys. But once you get the majorness down, you will always recognize it everywhere. If you play it really low, is there a difference? This is a question from Jean David. There's a lot of considerations there. There's something to do with our hearing where things fall apart, too low and too high, right? Like if I take this major chord, this is already getting pretty low. This is very low major chord, but you can still hear it. But say down here, you can actually kind of hear it still, but it's almost become a mess. Down here, it's a mess. It's unusable, right? So that sort of thing plays into it. Now, that's a whole other topic that I can talk about in another stream, all about basically voicing. There's all sorts of interesting principles around voicing, about where to get the most pleasant, the most pleasing intervals and voicings across a keyboard. Like, where do major thirds sound richest? Where do sevenths work best? All this kind of stuff. There's all sorts of interesting principles that go through there, but that's not for today's topic. So we said intervals, we said chord qualities, and then extensions can be trained as well, of course. So if we've recognized major chords, we start to recognize what sevenths sound like on major chords, and what sixths sound like, and what ninths sound like. Because of course, when you hear an add 9 chord and you compare it with a major 7th chord, do they sound the same? No. Of course not. This one sounds like this, and this one sounds like this. That's how you learn them. This add 9 sound is a universal sound of a major chord plus a ninth, has a universal quality to it, just the same as the major chord had a universal quality to it. All musical entities have a universal quality to them when you look at them in this way. So it's not so much that we're looking to understand or hear just at this point this specific voicing of an add 9 or something. We could have played it, like this or this or whatever. It's the overall feeling state of add 9-ness, basically. That's what we're learning, major 7-ness. So there's so many chord qualities, of course. There's an amazing number of them. So it's a gradual process. You're not going to get it overnight. You start simple and you build, right? Next would be inversions. So inversions can be trained as well. You can train your ear to hear whether the root is in the bass, the fifth is in the bass, the third's in the bass. That's something that you can specifically train, because when a third's in the bass, it sounds like this. When a fifth's in the bass, like this. Root in the bass. They all sound different. Because they sound different, you can learn them. That's as easy as it is. Chord degree. This is where things get interesting. Now we are marrying sort of melodic world and harmonic world, in that right now we're talking about abstracted chords. This is just a major chord floating in space, But in real music, the major chord occurs somewhere in the key. Is it on the 1? Is it on the 4, the 5, the flat 6, the whatever, you know? It can occur anywhere in the key, and now you get a combination effect. You get the quality of the chord, and you get its position in the key. We're going to talk about this just shortly. I'm not going to expand on it just yet. But you start to get these even meta things that happen, and maybe you're starting to get a pattern here. The way ear training works is you're starting with small little, it's like little letters or phrases. You're learning to recognize what they sound like. I'm trying to make a speech analogy here. It's not a very good one. About like you're recognizing a fifth, you know, and then you're recognizing major, and then you're recognizing, you know, the 7th note of a degree, of a scale, and all this like little baby things. And then these get conglomerated into larger structures, and then they get conglomerated into larger structures. You have to be able to hear the small ones first, but then when they build, you can hear the small ones inside of the larger ones. And the larger ones then take on this sort of meta quality where they have their own unique sound, but you can also hear that inside them is the building blocks that you've learned already, right? It's a very cool thing, actually. And then lastly, harmonically speaking, progressions. You can start to hear progressions. If you can hear chord qualities, if you can hear their position in the key, as in that's an add 9 chord, but it's on the 4th degree of the key, then you can start to put it together, right? Now you can start to hear it's the 4th degree, going to the 2 chord, going to the 5 chord, going to the 1 chord, and then music starts to become intelligible to you. You start to be able to hear what's happening in real time, and you can track chord progressions as music streams to you, either in your mind or out of your speakers. Combining that with melodic stuff, you get the picture, right? You start to be able to understand what's happening scale-wise, melodically, harmonically, bass-wise, all together. You get these big sort of meta feelings, which is an interesting experience because it's not so much an experience of, it can be, I guess, very granular. Oh, this is that, and this is that, and this is that, and this is that. But it's more, for me, an experience of an overall vibe happens. When I'm hearing a song that is in a Mixolydian vibe, I don't even yet need to know what the specifics are I'm hearing. The whole thing just gives the Mixolydian feel, the chords, the melodies, the bass line, and then if I want to drill down, I can hear each individual chord, I could hear each melody note, I could hear each bass note. It just depends on how much granularity you need at the time to achieve what you want. Common Beat says, I guess this would help with voice leading choices where you need to use inversions. I really struggle with that. Yeah, definitely. There's, inversions. That's a whole nother topic. Not even going to try to get into it right now. You can also ear train rhythmic stuff. We're not going to talk about that today, but of course you can ear train for rhythmic divisions, time signatures, swing values, polyrhythms, drum patterns, because they all sound a certain way. Quarter note triplets sound a certain way. You know, a 5 against 4 polyrhythm sounds a certain way. When something sounds a certain way, you can learn it. When something looks a certain way, like a person's face, you can learn it, right? It is its uniqueness that allows you to know it. There's no magic to it, no special thing other than you become familiar with the unique quality of the thing. That's all there is. Okay, so now we're moving on to how to practice. Unless there's any specific questions that people want me to cover before I get into that. I'm probably going to answer a lot of your questions, though, as I go through this. But we'll see. Okay. So, how to practice. I want to make a really important point here. This is tonic recognition. When I say tonic, I mean the home note of a key. It's not actually the root note, but you could also think of the root note of a scale, the root note of a key, the home note, the generating tone, the tonic, the 1. This feeling. That feeling. That's a feeling, right? When you hit that note, it has a very, very identifiable quality to it. The resolved, at-home, rested, finished quality. That's what I mean by a feeling state. That is a feeling state that you're having there. It doesn't, like if I stop somewhere else, that doesn't feel like that. That doesn't feel like that. Only this one feels like that. And that feeling you get when you land on the tonic, I'm calling the tonic feeling state. This is my number one recommendation to start with ear training. You want to be able to identify the tonic like that, melodically, harmonically, in the middle of a song, whatever. Because that feeling is so strong, it's probably the strongest feeling state that, as far as my experience goes, of all the ones that we're going to experiment with. And because it's so strong, it's easily identifiable, right? And it means it's a good place to start training. So this tonic recognition kind of opens the door for everything else, because all other structures get their sound in relationship to the tonic. So you want to be able to hear where that tonic is, because it can help you do so much other stuff by ear, basically. So I am going to have a full stream soon on figuring out the key of songs, techniques for being able to figure out what key a song is in. This is all part of that. I'm not going to go into in depth here, but there's a few ways you can start practicing this. One is just this simple thing I'm doing, just playing scales, resolving them. Playing scales, trying to resolve them. Singing the resolution. Minor scales, modes, doesn't matter. You just do them all. You're trying to focus in on this tonic quality, basically. So you can do it scale-wise. You can do it chord-wise as well. We're going to get to that. Because the tonic chord has the same quality, basically, as the tonic note. It's this resolved, settled quality. But on top of it, it has now the major quality. But it could have been the minor quality. But you see, this is a minor chord, but it still has the tonicness in it. That tonicness permeates it. It gives it its life, basically. Its whole feeling is born of it. So learning to recognize the tonic is huge. Huge, huge, huge. So one technique that I would like to recommend as well for tonic recognition is playing a piece of music, like it could be a song on Spotify or whatever, listening to it for a while, and then stopping it and singing the tonic. You just stop it at some random place in the track. It doesn't matter if it's ending on the right chord or whatever. You just stop it and you try to bring into your body the feeling of resolution. What note would this song end on? How do I resolve everything that I'm hearing? You try to bring about the tonic feeling in yourself, you sing it, and then you check if it's correct. This is huge. So you want to be able to, while hearing music live, identify the tonic, so that if a tonic chord is played or a tonic melody note is played, it triggers you. You immediately say, there it is. There's the tonic. Because when you have that, the relationships of everything else starts to open up. So this technique is really valuable. Playing music, pausing it, trying to sing the tonic, checking if you've got it, rinse and repeat. Okay, so in terms of practice now, I want to talk about melodic and harmonic stuff. And my suggestion is to practice melodic and harmonic stuff simultaneously. I don't mean like literally at the same time, but I mean, you don't just start with melodic stuff and wait to do chords in like a year. You just start doing them together. You start trying to train for melodic recognition and for harmonic recognition today. You start simple in both, but you don't have to wait. They inform each other. It's very important because of course in real music, both are intertwined all the time. So, talking melodically, as I've been saying the whole time, the point is to learn the feeling states of things. Individual notes within a key, that is in relation to a tonic, have feeling states. So a great way to learn them is to use a drone. Now in my course, I have a series of courses called Musical Warp Drive. The links are in the description if you want to check it out. A lot of this stuff is talked about in there. In the second part in the series, it's all about melody. scales and arpeggios and all that. There's a bunch of stuff that's done with drones. This is a drone that I provide in the course. This is an E. And what you need to start doing is playing and singing scale degrees against this drone. So today I'm just gonna play just because I need to talk while I'm doing it, but ideally you're gonna sing against it. But if I play, this is an E. So if I play an E, it has a perfectly resolved feeling in it. Say compare it to an F. So when you're trying to learn the sound of a note, you want to be able to hear it continuously and sing it. When you sing it, it resonates in your body with the drone and it starts to do something to you. You have to have these things come together. There is the sound, the feeling state, the vibration, and the name. You can say the one or tonic or home, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. You need to hear it all together and give it a name at the same time. So as this, as I'm singing that or listening to it, I'm thinking one. This is the feeling of one in a key center. Then you start to add in other notes, say the fifth. Does the fifth feel like the one? No, it feels like this. Here's the one, here's the fifth. You sing them both and you compare and contrast them. You're getting familiar, just like with a friend, like you're meeting a new friend. You're trying to get familiar with the sounds of the degrees. And you get familiar by being exposed to, by hearing them a lot, right? That's the whole trick. That's the only way to do it. You have to sing them, you have to play them, and you have to know what you're singing and playing. You have to know it's the fifth when you play it and know that it's the root when you play it. So you do this for the intervals that make up a major scale to begin with, right? Here's the two. The two is a very specific sound. Here's the three. They do not sound the same. The three sounds like this, the two sounds like this. If they sound different to you, that means you can learn them. There's all sorts of other considerations that I'm not going to get into today about tuning, in terms of like the tuning we use on these. That's a discussion for another day. For now, we're just going to use the tuning that the keyboard uses, equal temperament. Here's the fourth. Compare the third and the fourth. Here's 4, and here's 3. How different, so different. It's like two different friends, right? I wouldn't mistake my mother's face for my brother's face. Something important to mention here that Rev brings up, Common Beats brings up, is he says, I seem to gravitate to the octave first rather than the tonic. Good to know how to practice. For me, they're identical. When I say the tonic, it doesn't matter if it's this one, this one, this one, this one, because all tonic notes feel the same. Yeah, they're in different octaves, of course. This one is lower than this one, is lower than this one, but they all have the same feeling state. The emotional feeling state of the thing is identical. And it's actually a good exercise, not even exercise, but mindset to have, that these notes, you don't even have to think of them as being higher or lower in pitch. It's almost irrelevant. What you're learning is the feeling state. When you're trying to learn the sound of major thirds, you're embodying the feeling state of the third. It's not about the pitch. The pitch could be up here, here, here. You're calling to mind the feeling state, and then it could be in any octave. It doesn't actually matter. So it's kind of interesting to think about melodies in this way, that melodies are just a flow of feeling states. Say we have a melody that goes, And we hear each of those notes. That's the root of the one again. Here's the 7th. You spend time on that. Very distinct feeling. Does not sound like this. Here's the 5th, 6th, 7. So I don't want to be thinking about like pitch is going do-da-dee, do-da-dee, you know, like in terms of a contour. That's important too, but not for our current purposes. We're just trying to think of the melody as a flow of feeling. I'm going to play it again, but try not to concentrate on the up and downness of the pitch. Just concentrate on the feeling states of each note and see how that sounds to you. I'm going to play slow. So you see, a melody is a flow of feeling states, and you can abstract it from the actual up and down pitches, and because that is what you're trying to learn. You're trying to learn the feeling of each note. So just to move on from this first topic, how to learn melodic function or melodic degree, it's by getting familiar with them in some way, and the best way is with a drone, because then the drone is giving you the relationship constantly of each note. Now, if I play the same melody without the drone, we know what the key is, and the notes still feel the same because our mind or ear is sounding a kind of virtual drone. Even though we're not hearing it, this note only feels like this because you have a virtual drone sounding in your mind, so to speak, that gives it that feeling. There's no other way, because if I'm in a different key, say I'm playing here, this does not feel like a 7th anymore. It's not about the pitch, it's about the relationship. So the fact that this can sound like a 7th, even though I'm not playing a drone anymore, is because the mind understands the relationship internally. It doesn't need to be explicit, basically. So the whole thing, just to sum up, you're learning the feeling states of melodic degrees through singing and playing them against a drone very purposefully, very slowly, also naming them. Starting with a major scale, over time they become friends. You switch to a minor scale, and then you can start to use modes or mixed mode stuff where you're doing major scales, but then you play, you know, like, so you have this thing going and you play major E stuff. But then you can add in some notes from minor 7ths, from minor scales. And if you've learned all the sounds, they are interchangeable. Minor 3rd, major 3rd. By the way, Phil, thank you so much for your donation. I appreciate that. Thank you, my friend. Okay. So that's the start of melodic training. There is an app I highly recommend. It's called Functional Ear Trainer. It doesn't use drones, but it really does help you learn these functions, so to speak, in that it will play a cadence for you. You know, it will play... and then it will just play a note. So it establishes a key center, and then it plays a note. The virtual tonic is sounding in your mind. This note gets its feeling from that, and you have to identify it. It's a free app, Functional Ear Trainer. Highly recommend it. Okay. Then I'm just going to move on a little bit here just for sake of time in terms of melodic stuff. Once you have started to learn the sounds of these things, that you feel a little bit comfortable with what a fifth feels like, what a major third feels like. You try to transcribe melodies. So you take melodies from very simple songs like nursery rhymes, children's songs, just famous songs that are known in pop culture, and you sing them or hum them or imagine them, and you try to feel the melodic function, the feeling state of each note. Say you take, I don't know, Mary Had a Little Lamb, and say, I'm going to play it here just so we can hear it. So when you're hearing that in your mind, can you recognize that the third note is the tonic? Do you feel it now? It's resolved. Once you got it, once you understand that that note's the tonic, now you sing it again or play it again and you listen for that. So every time that note gets hit, it triggers that sensation. Ah, that's that tonic feeling. This is that major third feeling. So you try to transcribe melodies by ear through singing them, imagining them, humming them, and then you check if you're right. That's all. You just try and then you check. If you're consistently wrong with a certain thing, it's going to tell you what you need to work on. You go back to the drone, you sing more, you try more, you play the melody against the drone, you try to feel the melodic function. I can put a drone down here. And now all the melodic functions are made very explicit because the drone is always sounding. Okay, Common Beats. Great to have you here, my friend. Thank you so much. Have a great day. This moves into bass line recognition. So bass lines are melodies, of course, for the most part. They're just single notes one after another, and the notes of a bass line have the same feelings as the ones up here. They're just very low. But there's not something different. You know, it's the same learning that you do to learn the feeling states of melodies give you the bass line feelings as well. And being able to transcribe bass lines from music is hugely important for trying to get chords easily, which we can talk about just briefly in a minute. So hopefully this is all understandable so far. I'm going to move on to chord recognition now. Firstly, get this app. It's called Complete Ear Trainer. I've used just about every ear training app available. This is my favorite one. It's extremely comprehensive, great exercises, great interface, really, really like it. Yes, it costs money, just buy it. It's fantastic. It's gonna give you exercises for all the stuff that I'm talking about today, basically. John says, I work completely through feeling. All this stuff seems to confuse what I do without thinking about it. I think this technical kind of learning will help me at least as far as playing with a group. I work completely through feeling. All this stuff seems to confuse what I do without thinking about it. And that's up to you, John. It just depends on what you feel is needed. There's no reason to learn anything in music or in anything if it doesn't put you towards a goal that you have. Can you already do everything that you want to do? Can you already create the music you want to create? If so, you don't need to learn anything else. The impetus to learn something comes when you hit a wall and you can't do, or you can't do as fast, or whatever. So do you need to learn these melodic functions? Maybe, maybe not. Just depends on what your goals in music are, where your deficiencies are. What I can tell you is that any time spent doing this stuff, even if it's unusual for the way you normally work, is going to very, very much benefit you. I can tell you that. All right, so learning chord qualities. Using an app allows you to learn chord qualities in an abstracted way. So that means outside of music, outside of real music. You're just going to hear individual chords played. You're going to hear this, then this, then this. You know, it's just asking you, is it major or minor? This is step one of chord quality recognition. Using an app and experimenting on your own to learn the differences between major and minor. On your own, you just play a major chord and contrast it with a minor. Don't worry about the specific notes, don't worry about anything else except for the feeling. Then you start going into the app or some other way, because you don't want to play it. Of course, you want to be in the dark about what is being played, and then you have to guess. Don't even try to move on until you can get major and minor chords identified 100% of the time in the app. You want to be able to have that thing play you, and honestly, within 2 seconds or less, you want to be able to say. Stranger, yeah, I think there's a free version of it. Maybe it's limited. I don't know I haven't looked at it in a while now. But the one that I had before was a big full version and it's paid. So maybe check for that. So yes, learning major and minor chords first. And then once you start to get a feel for it, you try to put it into practice in real music. All you do is you play a song here. I have a couple of songs that I made some years ago on here. That I'm just, yeah. I don't have basically any music that just uses triads, unfortunately. I'm sorry. So I had to try to find the simplest one that I have, and this is probably this one. And all I want you to think about is every chord that goes by, ask yourself, is it major or minor? Sorry, that got time stretched for some reason. Right? So when you hear music being played, you're not asking anything in depth. You're just saying, is it major or minor? Is that chord major or minor? Is that chord major or minor? A good way to test this is on pop music or folk music. Just get a Spotify playlist of pop music, grin and bear it, play it, and just go through every track. And every time you hear a chord, you just ask yourself, is it major or minor? Go look up the chords online. Did you get it right? Simple to do like that. You're just trying to take your abstracted practice in the app, put it into practice just for recognition of chord quality, major and minor. Yeah, like here I'm playing add 9 chords, then it's a minor 7 add 11, then it's a major 7 sus chord. It's just what my ears are telling me right now. I don't know for sure, but I think that's what I'm hearing. It doesn't matter though about all those extensions and stuff right now. The underlying feeling of its majorness or minorness is all you're trying to learn at first. The extensions will come later. Okay, so once you've got major and minor down, you use your app just to move on to more complex chord types, but you also want to be able to play them on your instrument so that you can understand, when you're starting to do diminished chords, augmented chords, 7th chords, 6th chords, whatever, you want to at least be able to see them on your keyboard, your guitar, your whatever, maybe understand the interval structure of them a little bit. It's absolutely not required. You could just straight up go off sound, no doubt about it, because that's what it is in the end. But there are reasons that learning the structure of the thing can actually help you quite a bit. Because sometimes, especially when we're getting familiar with ear training, your ears might not be there yet, right? They might not be ready to get all the information on the fly. And so you might need to use crutches or tricks to help you figure things out. And that's where theory comes in. You can use all sorts of little tricks. I don't know if I have time to talk about them today, to be able to figure out, that's a major chord, but is it the 5 chord or the 4 chord? Is it the 1 chord? I can't quite tell. There are tricks that you can use that are theoretical that can help you determine those things, but it is a crutch. Once you learn what it really is, for instance, in this case, of course, I try to find a simple song, but it's not that simple. This song is Mixolydian. So this is a D add 9. This is a A minor 7 add 11. This is a C major 7 sus, and then this is a G sus. So this is a Mixolydian chord progression. completely forgot what I was just struck by the beauty of the song. I've forgotten what I was going to say. No, I don't actually know. What was I just talking about? I was talking about moving on to complex chord types. Oh, that's right. Knowing the structure of the thing. That's right. So understanding that that I'm in a Mixolydian mode can help me. I can work out all sorts of things if I can hear the bass movement, if I can hear its major and minor. There are tricks where if my ears aren't up to the task of grabbing everything right away, I can use theoretical tricks to help me figure out stuff, right? That's very common. We can talk about that another day, maybe. I appreciate the comments on the song, guys. Thanks. Yes. So then that's kind of the path for chord qualities. There's not that much to it, honestly. It's just starting very simple, using an app to isolate sounds and test yourself, and expanding your vocabulary of the sounds you recognize. Every chord quality is its own unique feeling state. You learn it through familiarity. That's all there is. And then you test yourself in the real world. Can you hear it in real music? If not, why? How come it's confusing you? And that gets on to the next topic, which I have to go a bit quick. I don't want this to be a 2-hour stream or anything. Which is chord function and position or degree. Yeah, okay, we hear a major chord. So let's take that song, for example. I'm just going to simplify the chords now so that they're not, I don't have extensions anymore. I'll just play. Here's the D major, which is our home chord. Now here's a minor chord, but in this case, the minor chord is being played on the 5th degree of the scale, which is not diatonic to a major key, right? Usually in a major key, the 5th degree should be major. Would have sounded like this. This would have been the normal sound. This next chord wouldn't even exist in the thing. So what's happening then? Not only am I hearing a minor chord, but it's where in the key is the minor chord happening. This becomes extremely important because a minor chord has a certain sound in and of itself, but its sound is altered, augmented, changed by its position in the key structure. Is it a minor chord on the 2nd degree, on the 3rd degree, on the 6th degree, like the diatonic minor chords, 2, 3, and 6? Or is it a 4 minor, going to a sound like this? Yeah, that's a minor chord, but it's a very strong sound compared to, say, this. Here's a 1 chord to a 2 chord. This was a minor chord. Here's a 1 chord to a 4 minor. There's a minor chord too, but it doesn't sound quite like the other one. Clearly it still sounds like a minor chord, but its position in the key structure adds a new layer of emotionality, of whatever on top of it. And that's what's important to recognize, is that it's not just about chord quality, it's about position of the chord in the key. So once you've learned some basic chord qualities, you move on to learning their positions in the key. That sort of stuff is beyond the scope of what I can talk about today. If you want some information on it, just grab some of the Musical Warp Drive courses with the links in the description. I cover that stuff in immense detail there. New one coming out in a few weeks, all about harmony, all about chords, so it's really going to get into it. But that combination of kind of melody meets harmony, meaning the harmony is a minor chord, but it is melodically placed, as in its bass note, is centered over a certain note in the key. So in this case, it's over the 5 chord in the key, and it produces a specific sound. Right? So you learn that too. It becomes just another sound that you can learn. So my suggestion for learning chord function is you start simple. You just learn the diatonic functions. 1, 4, 5 in this key. And you play them back and forth. Play a 1 to a 5. What does that feel like? What does a 5 chord feel like? Then you play 1 to 4. It's different. This is teaching us about the different sound between a 5 chord and a 4 chord. Both are major chords, and the 1 chord is a major chord, but it's their position in the key now that dictates this next kind of meta layer of the feeling state that we're trying to learn. So you see these layers build on each other. Once you've got the chord qualities down, you move on to the scale degrees, as in where they're positioned in the key. Once you've got that, you can start to understand chord progressions because you can hear the combination of bass note and chord quality, making this more like meta level. And that is how you track chord progressions in a key, basically, is that combination of those 2 factors, plus a ton of experience. Just to give you some sense of it. I've been doing this stuff for years and years. And there's been periods of time when I've been very, very serious with it. Like as in using multiple ear training apps multiple times a day. In the morning, I used to go on to Spotify, put on the pop playlist or whatever playlist, and I would do 20 songs every morning. Transcribe the chords from the song. As soon as I got it, move on, next one. Transcribe, next one, transcribe, blah, 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 blah. This would be day after day after day after day. I've transcribed for sure over 1,000 songs. This is not something that came after I did 10. I made unbelievable amount of mistakes in the beginning. Still do make mistakes all the time. Sometimes I hear a chord, I'm like, oh, that's the 5 chord, but it was the 4 chord. That happens to me all the time. Something that basic, I can still get tripped up on. But my suggestion is, once you're getting some familiarity and you want to test yourself, use pop music, use folk music, use classic rock music, whatever you want, that's a little bit on the simpler side harmonically, and just run through tracks. Just try to hear the sounds. Try. You're going to have to use a bunch of theoretical techniques to help you in the beginning, as in you're trying to hear bass motion, and whenever you're trying to hear melodic stuff like bass motion or actual melodies or whatever, my one tip here is think about half steps. In every major and minor key, usually speaking, unless there's non-diatonic notes going on, there's only 2 half steps, right? The half steps, if you can hear them, will narrow down your options as to where you are in the key. And until your ears are matured enough, so to speak, that they can hear those things outright, you need little tricks to help you narrow things down as fast as possible. The first step is to hear the tonic. The second is to start trying to use anything you possibly can to narrow down your options of what chord you're hearing, right? And that can be, are you hearing a half step in the bass? Are you hearing a big intervallic jump? Does the bass note sound like a 5? There's so many things you can use to do that. But it's the practical experience that makes all the difference. Even if you ear train in an app for 10 hours a day, it's very different when you go hear real music, because the voicings are not the same. The chords are spread across multiple instruments. There's drums going on. Things get mixed up. There's melodies on top of it. There's extensions being played. It's much more difficult than it is in that controlled environment. That's the difference. And so you need to constantly expose yourself to the real world application, not just to the app. The app is giving you the pure sense of a sound, but then the real world shows you this is what it actually sounds like. This is what a 4 chord sounds like when a whole band is playing it, or it's in a beat or whatever, right? That stuff is super important. And it's not going to come after doing 20 songs. It's not going to come after doing 50 songs. It's going to come after doing hundreds of songs. It's just something that takes a lot of time. But the benefit of it is, just like everything in music and in music production, yes, it all takes an unbelievable amount of time to learn really well. But the benefit is the learning is the fun part. It is putting in practice, getting feedback through seeing your results change. That lights you up, right? When you see that work you've put in, now you recognize a tonic chord when it appears and you say, ooh, that's cool. And it makes you want to do more, right? So it's that journey of doing it that is actually where all the enjoyment lies. If you could just click on and be able to do it, you wouldn't appreciate it. And it wouldn't have the same joy in it. It's going through the process. It's developing. It's having insights. It's having light bulb moments. That is what's so much fun about it. And then, of course, you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Yes, you can transcribe songs. You can hear you can play what you're hearing in your mind. All that stuff is super important. But it's that journey through it. Honestly, I wouldn't want to skip to the end. Now, having done, not that I'm at the end, but I wouldn't want to skip to my end goal. I want to go through the process. It really fills out your understanding and is just like playing a video game or something. It's a joy in and of itself to have little goals, to have the apps that can give you scores. Can you get 100% on your major and minor chords? Can you get 100% on your diminished and augmented chords? Can you get 100% blah, blah, blah? When I was doing my ear training stuff, and still do, I hold myself to a very, very high standard. I'm not going to move on to another exercise unless I can 100% that exercise multiple times in a row. I want to be able to go through that major and minor exercise, get 100% right, repeat it, get 100% right again. Then I know I've got the thing. Then I move on to adding something else. I'm not in it just to get the high score and say, hey, I did it once by fluke. I want to actually know the thing, right? That's the whole point. John says, yes, my dream is to be able to recognize tonics on hearing them. That's a great first goal to have. And it's honestly not that hard. You'll get there quick because the tonic feeling is very strong. My goal still is to know everything I'm hearing without thinking about it. At the moment, most of the time I would say I can know everything I'm hearing with thinking about it. If the music is simple, I can know everything I'm hearing without thinking about it. That means it's instinctive. I don't even have to do any calculations. I don't have to do any A plus B equals C kind of stuff. The music comes out and I know it. But getting beyond a certain point, it starts to get too much. And I have to start to use tricks to narrow things down, to know where I am in a key. When every second chord is a modal chord and they're inverted and they have extensions, then the key changes and then blah, blah, blah. I can't track that super fast. That's very hard to do for me. So that still is something I'm trying to work on, is I want to get to the point where even that kind of music comes to me like this, right? Good night, Sophocles. Great to have you here. Esteban says, this is very inspirational. I plan on really improving my ears this summer so I can kill it at school next year and improve my composing workflow. Hey, that's the way. Happy to hear that. You're going to really enjoy it. CS asks, what was your first aha moment when learning ear training? I think by the time I started ear training, I could already identify major and minor chords just because I played them all the time. But tonic recognition was my probably first aha moment. When in the midst of a song, especially like if, say you're in, I don't know, I'm just going to play something for you. Let's do... So if you're hearing this, the question is, which chord is the tonic? Starting on chord number one, as in, and I'm not saying that's the tonic chord, this is the first chord I'm playing. Chord number 1, chord number 2, chord number 3, and 4. Which one feels most rested to you? Like you could end, you could end the song on it. I can play. So some of you were saying this one. It's actually this one. Like Nick says, E flat. The second chord I played. First chord, second chord. Now if I go and end on that second chord, you'll hear what I mean. That was an aha moment for me. The first time I was able to recognize a tonic chord that was not the first chord of a song, not the last chord of a song, it's just a chord in there somewhere. That's when I said, whoa, I know the feeling of a tonic. I can hear it without the music like pointing me at it. Yes, it was the second chord. I don't want to have someone play a cadence 4, 5, 1, you got it, here it is. I want it just gets touched on for a second in a track. And when it gets touched on for a second, then I can identify it instantly. That's what I was looking for. And the first time I got that, I thought, aha, this is achievable. I've gone from not being able to do it to being able to do it. The door is open now. I understand. It's all about familiarity. It's just getting to know the sounds. When you know the sound very, very well, it's just like knowing a color very, very well. You don't mistake it. Every time you hear it, you know it. So, Kem asked, was the fourth chord acting as a fifth? Yes, exactly. It's the fifth. The key. This was 4, 1, 2, 5. So this is a thing that trips people up in the beginning, is that a lot of chord progressions don't start on the 1. Of course, you don't have to start a chord progression or end a chord progression on the 1. But it really tests your ears, because can you hear the tonic when it's mixed in, right? That's the question. Here's another example. Here's another track I pulled out from long ago. Let's just listen to it for a sec, then we'll chat about it.
I know you will.
Right.
So what I want to know is, and Ian gets a great question. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. What I want to know is, this is going to be impossible for you to tell me because there's too many chords in here, but just try to hear which one of these is the tonic, okay?
I know you will.
Right.
Okay, this is a really interesting example because it doesn't start on the 1. There are many chord changes. They're all extended. There's some inverted chords. And the 1 is very, very short in this case. It only happens for a brief instant. And it's going to be hard for me to understand which ones you guys are saying are the ones. So I'm just going to tell you which one it is, and you can see if you got it right, basically. So I'm just going to stop it when it gets to the thing. This one coming right there. Boom. This guy. If I can just, my grid is... Do. You feel the resolve of that. Do. It's just brief. Do. It hits there just for that one hit. Now we're going to listen to it. I know that my video is a little bit out of sync with my audio, so I'm going to try to point to it, but I might be pointing at the wrong spot. Let's see. So. That's not that one. I changed it the second time.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, I know.
So you see, it only hits one time in the progression. It's something like... Then it goes... And then something like... Yeah, no. So the progression is 4, 4, 3. Let's sing the bass. 4, 4, 3, 2. 1, 5, 1, 5. I can sing it. 1, 5, 2. And then 4, 1 inverted, 2. So it hits the 2 over and over and over again, which might make you think that's the 1 because it's the longest, the chord that lasts the longest. It's repeated again and again. It's a very strong bass note, but it has the feeling state of a 2. Every time I hear it, my ear tells me 2. 4, 3, or 3. I'm off. 1, 5, 2. 4, 1, 2.
Oh, it's all right. Yeah, I know.
4, 4, 3, 2. 1, 5, 2. 4, 3, 2.
You will.
Right?
I know.
So it comes back to the 2 over and over and over again. And this gets into what Ian was asking. What if there's a progression that doesn't have a 1 in it? This happens a lot. So for instance, there's so many answers to this question. It's hard to say, but let's do something like this. Let's say we've got in that same key, it goes like this. this is 4. This is, I put the 1 in there by accident. Let's do this instead. 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 1. 5, sorry. 5, 4. So it never hits the 1. So in that kind of case, you're never going to hear the tonic quality, although maybe in the chorus you will or something like that. That kind of progression happens all the time, and it's a great idea to write stuff like that for a pre-chorus, for a verse, for a bridge, for a whatever, where the feeling is supposed to be up in the air, right? You're not giving the 1 intentionally, because to give the 1 gives resolution, and so instead you keep it up in the air, and then maybe the first chord of the chorus is the 1. I did a stream a while ago about complementary chord progressions, which you can find on the channel, and it talks about all this stuff, about where you place the 1 in a chord progression and the emotional effects and so on. I just wanted to use this musical example about placement of the 1 in terms of ear training and how to feel that little short burst of it, right? It's kind of a tricky thing to do. Okay, I'm going like crazy over time compared to what I wanted to, so let me just quickly get to anything else that's really important. If you have any questions, please let me know. I've been talking about major keys a lot here, but all this applies to minor keys too. You start with major because it's simpler to think about. It's kind of the basis of a lot of music, but all the same stuff applies to minors. You just have now a 1 that sounds minor. It doesn't sound major anymore. So you could have D minor, right? That sort of thing. It still feels like home. It's still a 1 chord, but now it's just a 1 minor. All the chords in the minor have their own feelings that are the combination of their quality and their position in the key, just like in major. Once you get major down and you've got minor down, you can mix them. And you can get all the modal progressions that create, you know, if you have this guy, but then you go to this guy, and then you go to, I don't know, this guy, and then something like that, let's say. I did that backwards that I did last time. So these chords are a mix now. I've messed that whole thing up. This is a major chord from a major key. This one comes from a minor key. This one comes from a major key. Now a minor key, right? You can mix and match them because you've learned qualities, you've learned degrees, and the thing becomes transparent. You can start to hear motions, just like the fluidity of listening to someone speak and understanding what they're saying, even before they get to their point. You can imagine what the point's going to be. You start to hear chord progressions, and you can anticipate where they're going to go, number-wise, understanding-wise, and then maybe you get surprised they don't go there. That happens pretty often too. Kem says, question, it's slightly unrelated now, but I'd really appreciate an insight on it. Do you approach harmonies as single lines coming together, or have you chords in mind and the lines get separated? The latter. Yeah, so maybe you're referring to this week's challenge. If you guys are new, if anyone's new on the stream, by the way, please join the Discord. The Discord is like a chat hangout little zone, and the link is in the description, where we talk about music production and theory and all sorts of stuff. We also do weekly composition challenges. So this week the challenge is to do 3-part harmony. So when you're approaching writing harmonies, is it single lines coming together, or do we have chords in mind and the lines get separated? For me, I have chords in mind, and the single lines are outlining or giving the chords, basically, right? So you can also do it completely opposite. You can just write 3 melodies that just intertwine, and it just ends up being whatever it's going to be. They're still going to imply chords though, right? They're still going to give the sensation of chords. Even if you did not have that in mind, it's still going to happen, because in any moment of music, in any given moment, there are things happening. There is a key center, there is a bass note, there is a root note. So in any moment, those things are going to be occurring. Even if you're just doing 3 melodies all by ear, thinking nothing of it, it's still going to establish a key that the ear is going to know. That's your key center. At any given moment in there, the ear is going to take all the harmony lines and basically try to factor them or understand them. It tries to make sense of what it's hearing. And the way it does that is that it selects, your ear selects root notes that explain the given tones. So when three melodies end up aligning and they hit, these notes, your ear is going to make a decision as to which root note explains those three. Is it this? Is it this? Depending on the musical situation, it's going to choose one of those. And that's not up to you. You can't sway it to do that one way or another. It's just going to do it. So regardless of whether you're thinking harmonically or not, your ear is going to think harmonically. Your ear is going to create chunks that exist in key centers. So when I'm doing the challenge, I'm doing the three harmonies interweaving, I'm very conscious of chords I'm trying to create, and using the three melodies are going to weave in and out to outline those chords basically, so I can be intentional about it rather than haphazard. Riyadh, yo-yo, welcome. Okay, let's get back to this thing just to finish up today. So, an end goal. Here's an end goal to maybe have in mind. To be able to take simple music, pop music, folk music, whatever, to be able to hear the music, know the chords, know the bass, know the melody, before you even touch an instrument. The question is, could you listen to music and write down the melody? Okay, you have to be given the key, of course, unless you have perfect pitch. I can't figure out a key by ear if I'd not given a reference tone. Let's say you know the key. Can you write the melody, the bass, and the chords, but without even touching your instrument, just from hearing? That's a goal that I had early on. It took me quite a while to get to that point, but I'm at that point now with certain music, not all music. That's a very, very useful thing to do, because now your ability to study and analyze music becomes greatly accelerated. You don't have to spend all the time trying to work out all the chords at home and figure it out and say, well, if that's the 1 and that's the 5 and it's going to a minor, so that means blah, blah, blah. It happens on the fly while you're in the car listening to Spotify or whatever. Tracks come on and you're learning just through listening because you know what you're hearing. You know what that chord degree is, you know what that quality is, you know where it's appearing in the key, you know if you're in a major minor key, you can hear the key changes, you can hear what the melody's doing. Is it playing an extension? Is it playing blah, blah? Is the bass inverted? Is it in root position? This stuff, with practice, I guarantee you, becomes transparent. You can hear it. If I can do it, believe me, anybody can do it. I had zero natural, inborn, God-given gift at this. Zero. I came from knowing nothing. I could not even pick out Happy Birthday, Mary Had a Little Lamb by ear at all. Seriously, I'm not even exaggerating that a little bit. All I did was desire it. I really, really desired to be able to do it. That desire led me on a path of research as to how to do it. I practiced many useless things for a long time, but ended up coming towards what was most beneficial. I practiced that very seriously and the abilities developed. It was a very exciting, fun process. And I highly, highly recommend it. If you are someone that wants this, where you're serious about composition or just for the fun and challenge of understanding music, do it. It's super, super cool. When you start to get it, it's like, wow, you're like a wizard, You speak the language of music. You can sing arpeggios out. You can understand everything you're hearing back and forth in terms of their placement in keys and all the things we talked about today. It's a highly worthy goal as far as I'm concerned. In fact, so much so I would say it's the most important part of musical training is the aural ear training aspect of it. And why not? Of course it is. Music is all about listening. The more that you develop your listening capacity, your actual fluency in the language of music, the more transparent and open everything becomes. The faster you can work, the more confidence you have. You can step into musical situations and just be able to speak music with anybody. I mean, like either theoretically talk about it or play music. You don't need to have everything given to you. You get it just through hearing it. And it's honestly not that hard. Yes, it's super time consuming. Don't think it's not. Don't think you're going to get this in a few days. Don't think you're going to get this in a month. Don't think you're going to get this in a year. It is going to take time to develop the deep understanding of it. But the time taken is enjoyable. It's a fun process. Start today, practice every day. Just get the apps I recommended, Functional Ear Trainer, Complete Ear Trainer. Just get on them for 10, 15, half an hour every day. Experiment with the drone, sing notes against a drone, but not just haphazardly. You got to know what you're singing, because there is the combination of the sound with the name, right? This is what makes it. So you want to be singing the note and know you're singing a fifth while you're against it, making sure you got that right, you know? You learn those melodic functions by repetition, by feeling the vibration in your body and naming that vibration, staying with the feeling state. Don't get caught up in the theory of it. Stay with the feeling state. Like Carmela says, practice identifying anything and every sound. Every moment is a chance to try it anew. Even if no music's going on, just sing some intervals. Can you identify what the intervals you're singing? Can you intend to sing a fifth and actually sing it? You know, all these sorts of things are practice. There's a million ways to practice it. But the crucial point that I've said 10 billion times today, and I want to reiterate again once more, is that the process of ear training is a process of gaining familiarity with feeling states generated by relationships. The relationships are distances between frequencies. They are not about absolute frequencies. It doesn't matter if you're in A440 or 432 or 428. It doesn't matter what that is. It matters that you have this distance to this distance to this distance. That structure creates a specific resonance in your body, and that resonance has a particular feeling. It's the feeling that you are learning. You're paying attention to the feeling exclusively. You know, of course, you have to learn the theory too. That's good. But for the ear training, you're paying attention to the feeling. It's just like with a person or with a color or with a whatever. You don't need to know the theory of colors. You just see purple and you say purple enough times until you can't unsee it. It doesn't mean that every time you say purple, every time you see purple, you say purple. That's not the case. But if you wanted to say it, it's there. That's what we're going for. Transparency in music through your ears comes through tons of experience of familiarizing yourself with feeling states generated by these various musical structures. Literally, that's what the process is. Maybe I'll make some more videos on specific exercises for things, but in my courses, I have many, many specific exercises in the musical warp drive courses, which are available in the description. Many, many specific exercises for ear training. It's like my number one recommendation for people learning music. Do not sleep on ear training. It will serve you for the rest of your life. Even if you drop music production, even if you drop the guitar, drop the piano, and you switch to something else, that ear training is going to carry over to whatever you do and is going to allow you to make massive progress in that new musical venture because you are fluent in the language. The physicality is something that you can't avoid. You just have to learn how to play an instrument, or the technicalities of using a DAW and mixing. It's all, you have to do all that stuff, of course, but it's the ear training that provides ease, freedom, fluency, speed, joy to the process of making music, basically, right? That's what's huge about it. I really, really encourage you to do it. Don't make the mistake I did when I was young and neglect it, thinking you can't do it, thinking it's not worth it. It is very, very worth it. It is the most worth it thing to do musically, as far as I'm concerned. Please come to the Discord, talk about it. Ask about the challenges you're having. I had many, many specific challenges. Hearing the differences between sixths, major sixth and minor sixth, that was very difficult for me, right? You know, just like that I had to work on that for a long time. Little things will crop up in your own learning that are unique to your ears and your situation, right? That sort of stuff is what you need to come ask people about. You need to come to the Discord, ask me, ask someone else who's practiced. They can help you with little tricks to learn certain things. You know, it's really important. Okay, I'm just gonna read some comments here. Hey, Tom, great stream, Max. Can't agree strongly enough with what you said. I use functional ear trainer every day. Hey. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. So yeah, I've got 35 likes on my side, 36 likes. I appreciate all that, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Maybe it was beneficial for you. If you want me to talk about this some more or any other topic, please come to the Discord. I have a suggestions for Max channel in there, and you can just search up and see, you can just type up any suggestion that you want for me to make a video on. I keep a list of them. The most important ones for people will get created. The next one I'm gonna make probably educational wise is gonna be how to determine the key of a song. A bunch of techniques for that. So lots of people are asking me about that. So that's another one we want to do. And then part 3 of my musical warp drive course is coming out in a few weeks, all about harmony, all about chords, chord progressions, ear training to do with harmony. Hopefully you enjoy that as well. I'm going to be back streaming on Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And I'm going to be doing my entry for this week's weekly challenge. This week's weekly challenge is 3-part harmony. So live, I will be doing a demonstration and entry myself on doing 3-part harmony, writing with 3 different instruments, harmonizing a melody, implying chords, using chord tones, passing chords, all sorts of fancy stuff we're going to get into there. It's going to be a blast. It's honestly one of my favorite things to do. So I'm stoked for that. I'm stoked to hear everybody else's entries as well. If you're not in the Discord, join up and you can participate in that challenge. And then we're going to listen to everybody's tracks on stream on Sunday, and then we can talk about them and vote on them in the Discord afterwards. So yeah, that's great. Thanks everybody. That was a blast talking about my favorite topic. I hope to see you all super soon, either here on YouTube or in the Discord. I appreciate you being with me. I appreciate your support and encouragement. I hope you have a great day and that your musical life is blossoming, that it's taking off and you find the magic in music. It's truly a blessing. It's truly a beautiful blessing to be interested in music, to love music. And the deeper that you go into music, the more that you experiment, the more that you investigate, the more that you listen, the deeper you listen, secrets are revealed, depth is revealed that I simply did not know was there. From the outside, it seems like, oh yeah, music, man, music's pretty sweet. But as you get into it, as you really learn, as you really deepen that connection to music and explore, you find things you never thought you were going to find about yourself, about the universe, about how music works, about the whole thing. It all goes together. It's truly a profound thing, and I really encourage you to just explore and be glad. Be glad that you are interested in this beautiful art form of music. It's truly a blessing in this life. So thanks, everybody. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I look forward to seeing you on a stream very soon. If not, I'll see you in the Discord. If not, enjoy your life and your day and your music. Okay, just to read these last questions before I go if there's any questions. The cult of music beauty. Yes, Ilya, the stream will be recorded and available directly afterwards, so you can enjoy it there too. Okay, guys, have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you all. Talk to you very soon.